So thank you. First of all, I want to say a very big thank you for you accepting to join me in this call, right? And it's a great honor, and I really do appreciate it. I know your approach to work, you are quite very disciplined, and you a go-getter. And so having you on this show is really an honor. Before we start, I also want to let everyone know this is FinTech Table, and I want to welcome you. This is a podcast where we bring you behind the scenes of all the fintech innovations happening across the globe. Our conversation at this time is with one person that I have known for over a long time, close to about 8 years now, since 2017 or 16. Her name is no other person than Mrs. Omojo. And on this show, I will be your host, Michael Ekuribe. Here, we sit down with with leaders, startup founders, and fintech professionals to hear the real stories behind the moves in the industry. And with a lot of innovation coming on, we could see AI taking over everything. We could see the rise of fintech innovation, especially in Africa and in Nigeria. Omojo is a product leader who has launched and actually shipped a lot of good products in the industry. She used to be a leader in Microsoft, and today she is still shipping a lot of great fintech products. And I want to say thank you and welcome again to this podcast.
Thank you so much, Michael. And I'm glad to be here. Happy to be here. Always happy to yeah, and learn as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I want to say something. I want to just start with just trying to know you. I don't know if you can tell our audience how your career journey had been. What was that pivotal moment in your career that took you where you are today? Today, you are a product leader and executive in your current place of work. And this is a growth that had become astronomical. What was that drive? What was that pivotal moment that led to all of this?
Okay. Hello everyone. So my name is Omojo Aunzia, and honestly, yeah, happy to be here talking about my journey to fintech, or I'd say to this moment where I'm in fintech. It wasn't planned at all, right? It just, I would say, happened surreptitiously. Because coming out of university as someone who studied chemical engineering, my goal really was to work in the oil and gas sector. Considering that's where I studied, and those were the places I was going for. Applied to most of the top companies in oil and gas, particularly Schlumberger. I even made it through to the interview stage. But I think that was when the whole slum in oil crisis happened and they were even downsizing. Let's just say I never got a call back to them. But then there was a point where my mom went somewhere in a tribal meeting or so. I met someone who studied chemistry and happened to be a top banker in one of the financial companies. And somehow that's how my, CV made it to GD Bank. And I got called for the assessment. I passed and then progressed to going for the interview to finally landing the role. One of the things that stood out for me was to see other engineering backgrounds working in the bank and really great stuff. So that was inspiring for me a bit and also encouraged me to continue because initially I had fought with the idea of working in a bank. So that's the story anyways on how I got the offer, and I got the offer to work in e-payment team of GT Bank, and I'll say that really changed everything for me. So when I got into the e-payment, one of the first assignments that my group had then did, your group turner they gave us that joined for the first time was to do an assignment or a presentation on how to skin a cat, So we're confused at first, like, what kind of topic is this? How to skin a cat? But the point was actually very powerful. And the point is that there are multiple ways to solve a problem. So what he drove by giving us that assignment was encouraging us not to blindly follow the status quo. We should question things, we should challenge things. And for me, that mindset shift was like the beginning of my love for innovation and curiosity, in that space. Fun fact, we also studied engineering in the lab. All right.
You said something very intriguing about many ways to skin a cat.
Honestly.
And how have these assignments given to you, this innocent young ET that had joined the banking industry that was not her dream? How have this changed your perspective and your approach to work and how you've approached the problem?
Exactly. So here's how it has changed is that I hold the problem very tightly while I hold the solution very loosely, which means that be very focused on the problem. I'm very focused on the problem that I'm solving, knowing that there are several ways to solve that problem. And so when I'm focused on the problem and hold solution loosely, it helps to choose the best solution that works. And even if you choose, or even if I choose the solution that is not the best, it keeps me open that I can always like iterate, you know. So being super focused on being super locked in, I would say, which means being super clear on the problem we're solving. So imagine, let's say I want to digitize payments for all the market women that receive micropayments in the markets. I can think of different solutions, USSD, mobile banking, natural processing. Should they do it through WhatsApp? Should they go internet banking? But then I have to like focus on who these people are, their demographic. What do they do best? What are they doing currently? Tailor the solution that works. And with technology, you're not building for one person. You're building a solution that doesn't just work for one person, but can work for billions of people, around the world. There are many ways to skin a cat. Says be super focused on the problem that you're solving, and which is like where you should focus up, but also know that there could be several ways to solve that problem. And your team should, figure out the best that works.
That was quite a very, very different approach to things and a quite insightful thoughts. As people on the school of thought, right, that why should I focus so much on the problem when I should focus on the solution? Having worked with some delivery minded set of people, I said, no, I want to get the solution. Why should I look at the problem? Why should I look at how I approach the problem? Rather, I should look at how do I get the solution. So you said something, hold the problem tightly and the solution loosely. In this economy or in this moment where things change, user need changes, how do you balance looking at the solution and looking at it, holding the problem? How do you balance these two?
Actually, you raised a very, very important point. Yeah, with breakthroughs in technology, users' needs are changing. The expectation of solutions is no longer as before. For example, before you could just give somebody a basic UI and so long as it solves the problem. But as users begin to see better designs and better solutions, it seems like the expectations continue to heighten. Now, when they say focus on the problem, there's something called problem discovery, right? Which is not exactly, and it's a mix of a lot of things. It's a mix of what you like. You have an hypothesis, for example, on what this problem is, right? And you're able to still listen to the user. And when you're listening to the user, you're beginning, you're trying to draw like the intent, trying to draw the problem, trying to understand things. Sometimes it may be beyond what the user says. It may be what they do. It may be the data that they talked about. But your ability to synthesize or really break down to really get what's the problem. So, for example, I would say, the classic example I like to use is some people say NGO went to somewhere, right? Like a remote area. And in this remote area, the women, they have to like travel for like 2 hours just to get water. And the NGO came and they just knew that water was a problem. Let's build a borehole for these folks so that, it's somehow they be working 2 hours, right? Just to get water. And so they started the borehole project. Something happened. As they dug the borehole, the next day when they come, that hole is covered with sand. And they're wondering who is trying to frustrate, their project. And they kind of put on cameras because this went on for a while. And to their surprise, the people who were coming to cover the borehole were the women. The women they were building this borehole for. And so when they began to speak with the women, they got to understand that 2 hours where they go down to get water and back is the best time of their day, where they give husband, give children, sleep with other women, work, and all of those things. You get. And so, which is why it's very good to really be locked in on the problem and the people that you are solving for. That I mean, when you're locked in, you can design solutions, that work. Yeah. So why I say hold solution loosely is there are companies who have gone extinct because they held on to a solution. So imagine being super focused on using the codex theory, right? I'm not seeing the technology in there. So as a tech person, as a product manager, you're not oblivious of checking on the latest technologies in the market to see what the competitor is doing, to seeing the changes in the market. So yeah, definitely I would recommend at this point subscribing to a lot of news, the Tech Crunch, the Tech Cabal, every 2 minutes read, and all of those things where you get to know what's happening in the market. So he's saying, because sometimes you can really be neck deep in execution, and somehow the technology that
have become extinct.
make what you're doing become extinct. To me, technology is creating new ways to solve problems, creating new ways to build solutions. Technology is creating new ways to do that. So, which is why, yeah, be very flexible, be very open-minded, be curious. There are many ways to skin a cat. I mean, you should be very open to picking out the best way. And when you discover that the path that you've chosen doesn't work, especially where you measure them with data. For example, you build solutions and the uptake is not happening. You wonder that, oh, these people had this issue with data to show you that people are not using it. Why are they not using it? So you find out, you do your research, and you iterate.
So what I will say this: our solution, we have it in mind, but getting there, we can get there from different places. My grandma will always say something in my language, but I'll say it in English. Say you don't watch a masquerade from one place. So you could watch a masquerade from different angles. You watch from here, you watch from here, but the goal is to watch the masquerade. And you also touched something very, very key about emerging technologies, about things changing, subscribing to news to get to news outlets to get latest information. So I want to ask, looking at this evolving landscape, especially in AI, blockchain, emerging technologies, do you believe this will have a more transformative impact on financial services? What is your take? How do you think the emergence of open AI, open banking, and blockchain technology will affect the fintech space?
Okay, so I think it's a very interesting question. Very, very. And we're really in interesting times. So AI has already started, reshaping everything, right?
Sure.
Then we can see how, that can apply even in what they call it, credit scoring, in fraud detection, proving compliance. So like all basically fraud detection, liveliness check, and I feel like it will have deeper value even in emerging markets. So one point I must say is that number one, time to market rapidly shortened by a lot. So if you look at the startups that come in or companies that are being built, you have your idea, you get your designer, you do your research and all of that, you come up with your PRD, you have your designers, your tech folks and all of that. Do you know that if you used to take an average of 6 months for all this, or if it took an average of 3 months for all this, now it can take, I dare say, days.
Yeah, 100%.
Or even weeks. So, lovable and all of that. So one good thing I'm happy for is that the time from idea to prototype has now been shortened at a greater level. With AI, with things like Lovable and all of these tools.
Firebase Studio.
Exactly. Firebase Studio, there's Repli, there's Cursor, there's Speed, helping developers, whether PMs, developers, designers at different levels. What does this mean? It means that you can now rapidly prototype for PMs, for example. From idea to prototype is mind blowing. I've built some products I've built some prototypes with them, and like they say, a picture is worth like 1,000 words, right? So these things are here to stay. But now back to the application in fintech. What does AI mean for us now? Like I said, speeding up time to market is one of it, right? And yeah, we can prototype faster, test idea quickly, and all of that. And I think it will have deep application in things like credit scoring. And I mean, with the great stuff that's happening now, which is that Nigeria has made the move, I think first in Africa, to come up with an open banking framework, which means that I mean, we'll begin to see really interesting things, begin to happen. So you would imagine that MFBs and co can now deploy, let's say, intelligent customer support in a particular language, say
Mm.
Yoruba, in Hausa and all of that. But I feel like it will have very deep roots in credit scoring so that people can now have access to loans as we do more of this, let's say, open banking. AI can help us get more insight than before, and it can help us offer more solutions. It can also help with the fraud detection that, like I said, now liveliness check are getting more effectiveness.
I love the conversation about AI. I know if we talk about it, we might speak so much about it. Love. I used to say something. Initially, if you want to speak to a machine, which is you need to begin to write. For the first time I learned how to code, I was coding on command prompts. I will have to write my JavaScript on Notepad and then save, and then I will send the command Java does this, and then I'm sending machine languages and all of that. So we moved to people getting to build IDs where people could write on normal IDs without having to run a command to execute your code. Now we moved to Python, was almost coming to a human language, similar to what people could understand. And now you, without being skilled as a developer, can now talk to AI to build what you want to build. Now, the question I will ask here: how can a product manager like you said you've used it for prototyping. How will product managers leverage on this AI in order to stand out? Will it take away the work of product managers, or how will it help them become better product managers?
Okay, very interesting. There's something that I'd like to say about how AI is playing in fintech. So if you remember those days, there were times in Nigeria where to have a payment gateway on your website, you need to pay like maybe 250K, and you need to have a developer, you need to have people, like it was a big deal. They have to choose the businesses that would do that. And then Pista came and somehow democratized that, right?
Mm-hmm.
How, for me, I feel that AI is democratizing some things that were rather. So if you have an idea, you may need you walk up to someone in tech or someone, a designer, try to explain the idea to them, and they'll find a schedule within their time, they pay them and all of that to come up with a prototype or UI or something. But now that has all been democratized, which means that you have that idea, you can express the idea in English. There are tools now who can take you from beginning to prototype, and I dare say even to production, if you don't mind. I mean, especially for passion projects, I would say. Now, as a product manager, what does it mean? It means that the time to focus on the real work of PMs is here. Before now, what do you do as a product manager? What is the job of a product manager really? A product manager is to help those companies bring successful product to the market. To have that really good strategic context of the user, of the business, of the solution you're building. You're the advocate for the user. The team depends on your context, your understanding of the problem, your understanding of the users, on your understanding of the business, the viability, and all of that. And then you can lean on, your tech team for the feasibility and all of that. Now, let's come down to your role as a PM. So let's say we want to build, let me use something my husband is passionate about. It's called FMC. So let's say you want to build a way to connect people whose car break down the road to the nearest mechanics, right? First of all, as a PM, what do you want to do? You want to understand what's this, right? How many people have this problem? You can use the likes of Brooke today to analyze user sentiment and do some user research based on information on the social platform as much as you're speaking to people one-on-one. You can do competition research today, even using AI to find what other companies are building these solutions today. You can see what your customers are saying about it, or what their customers are saying about it, maybe based on the ratings online and what they don't like. And then usually when you gather all of this knowledge or information, you're able to do a one pager, for example, to just summarize that this is what we're doing, this is the problem. You can break it into who are the users, who are the players, what are the dependencies, etc. And now usually what will happen when you have this context before now, you go ahead to do what? To write a PRD. Now there are prompts that can write that PRD.
We have chat.
We have charge of PRD by Clevo. And we're really in an interesting time. So it can shorten that time for you. You can even, once you prompt, give that strategic context, your PRD is able to come up and you're like, oh, wow, it's here. So when you're building products that are really user focused, it now means that AI can really do this other part of being able to generate your PRD and all, then get the strategic context, right? Understand the users, right? Discover the problem. And then with the help of the tech team, being able to share that with the tech team, we can come up with the best solution and you just know if this works. Funny enough, after you've written PID and you write a product brief, a design brief rather, you give it to your designer, right? To design, or you share one or two things. Now you can use products like Lovable. You can use product like Replit. There's UI Z also, and then there's a new one by Google called Split for UI. So it means that you can quickly put that idea into prototype. And sometimes you can even also show those prototypes to the people you're reading for, like, okay, does this solve the problem? You can share this prototype with your designers. You can share this with your developers and you can brainstorm. And like they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Immediately, you can start giving, feedback from those. It's really interesting.
So I will say at this moment, AI is turning almost everyone to product managers and developers.
I agree. Plus one to that. But then, really, if you look at it, right, there are copilots today that help developers when they're developing. Now their UI, Figma, in the last FinCon they had launched a product. I think it should be out now, where it's out now, where from prompt as well, you can design or you can improve your design and all of that. So for me, I feel like the time to development is faster. The time to designing is faster. However, for products, I agree that the time to prototype is faster. Developing a PRD is faster. Those two things are very strong, but I wouldn't say that AI has gone into everything. Of course, helping you to understand the user, do some
user research.
User research, but really getting locked into fully understanding the user you're solving for. Right? Fully understanding that problem still needs work. But one thing I'm excited about is that with AI, it helps you or us as PMs to focus on what our job really is. Because the entire thing is on our shoulder, expecting us to give that strategic context that is needed to build something.
So I will say AI will not go to those villagers and ask them, why are you still filling these holes?
I get it.
So you still need those PMs to still go out to those villagers, to still do those user conversations and also come up with that. AI can also help you make those analyses simpler and easier, but AI doesn't take you to those directions.
Yes. So when you discover your problem, when you discover the problem, discover the users, AI can take it up from there. So your job, I feel like the job of problem discovery is very critical for.
Thank you. Do you think that PMs should develop the skills in prompting? I see people who have a lot of ideas, but they don't know how to talk to AI. Do you think it's a skill that PM should really develop it?
Yes, definitely. So being able to prompt your AI in the way that works for you, or in the way that you get the maximum result without over prompting or too many conversation is a skill, to be learned. And I even think that it's even simpler for PMs, I would say, than people who are non-PMs. For us as PMs, we're able to like prompt the GPT and somehow, in fact, let me say this. If you don't know how to prompt a GPT, you can even ask the GPT, how best can I prompt you? It's all for me hack, right? Where, I mean, when we started, some of us used to tell ChatGPT, good morning first, like so respectful as African. They will say, please help me with
Always
ABC
please help me.
and all of that. When it does, we say, oh, thank you very much. In fact, is he the OpenAI guy?
I'm out on.
Exactly. I had to come out to say, please, it cost us more when you guys say thank you to ChatGPT. I just told us, like, you got to that's fine. Right? You know, so I mean, that's on the lighter note, but being able to prompt to something we can learn. And if you don't know how to do it, even ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, they can teach you how to prompt them. And these things are now so good at natural language processing that somehow so one of the things that worked for me in a way that I've gotten the best results in prompting AI. So funny thing is if you want to move from idea to prototype, for example, you can use AI for layman perspective. Use AI to say, oh, I have an idea on building product A, B, C, D, and C. This is what I think this product is going to do, yada yada yada, and please help me write or help me. So I try to tell my AI to confirm that you understand my, and sometimes I even say, let's brainstorm this together so that I'm sure that he understands what I want and what I need. And when we are fully locked in on that brainstorming, I can say, oh, let's go ahead. So for people who just want to be things and are not product managers, you can prompt AI actually with the idea that you have, and you can tell it to expand on this idea. You can even tell it to go further to come up with the MVP. Like, what should you be focusing on in the now, not entirely the full idea. You can tell you this is what you do in phase one, phase two, phase three. And when it sees that, you can even ask it to help you write prompts that you would use in putting into this prototyping AI tool, and it helps you write it like, oh, be modern. I want a modern design. I want this tone and all of that. It helps you to do that. One of the ways I've gotten the best results from prototyping tools like Lovable is by using my user stories. I realize that when I'm able to work on my user stories and give my user stories to Lovable or give it to a GPT to break it down into the prompt that works for Lovable, I discovered that I get the best results using that approach. So it's something that other people can try. But
Yes.
so, yeah, in summary, if you don't know how to prompt AI, you can ask AI how you can prompt it and it will tell you. And for prototypes, you can try the user stories approach. And I found it to be very, very good in giving results.
This is a $1 million advice that you don't get anywhere. So take this seriously. See, I also came up with something I call a framework for prompting. When prompting, you need to define your task. You need to define the context. So you need to also give the AI a reference, right? What should it be? You also in the task, you should define what the persona of the person asking for that task. For example, I am a product manager. I am trying to build product ABC for the market ABC, and the concept. This is to solve 1, 2, 3. Can this be like a product that has been done here, here, and here? So it gives AI a full context to understand. I understand. I'm going to reference this. And then after you do, you evaluate the response, you look again, you amend, and you keep iterating. Even if it hallucinates, you iterate. You make sure that you are get your achieved result.
So I would even like to add, I mean, you said all, but there's even one important thing. Is even an article that I would like to write and post is on blind spots. So why I find AI to be a very good brainstorming tool, like we just said, you can prompt it and all. I also find it to be a very good tool for understanding your blind spots. Spots are things you didn't really think about, which you should add as part of your consideration. Just like sometimes when you give something to a designer, I'd be like, oh my God, I forgot a particular scenario. Or there was a part that we didn't actually consider. Or sometimes it even gets to production before you remember that, oh, we didn't factor people who have feature phones, or we didn't factor people who have multiple devices, or we didn't factor. So sometimes when I brainstorm with AI, I just leave a room for, can we discuss any blind spots that you've identified with this flow that we've not captured or something? Funnily enough, as much as I ask AI, it's also something I do with my team. Doesn't get started. Like, as we've gone through this one pager, we've discussed this idea. Let's do a pulse check for blind spots. Are there any blind spots that will not find? Now, the good thing of really checking with the team is that you're checking with a designer, with a developer from their own different POV. They're able to like identify if there are blind spots of something that we've not considered. Just asking to ask, are there any blind spots that we've not considered, or what are the blind spots, can really be a game changer in building something. So my advice to everyone, as you prompt, as you draft, as you speak with your dev, always pause doing brainstorming or at the end to ask, what are the blind spots? Are there any things that we've not considered? It's very impactful.
I agree with you. I think this is relatable, not just in building product. I think it's relatable to life, to pause and reflect. What am I missing? Where is my blind spot? And for you to, you've gotten this advice from a great product manager. Always reflect on your blind spot. Next question I will ask right now: if you are to build a product, especially with the market you are in and with the direction the world is going, the direction fintech is going, what product would that be?
Okay.
Or what problem are you passionate to solve today?
All right.
And
So,
why?
and why? Okay. So I'm someone that have like a lot of ideas on things to solve. Some that comes from personal pain and some for a greater good. So one is helping companies really meet their users where they are. So let me explain that. A lot of people are on WhatsApp, TikTok, Instagram, but I would say mostly WhatsApp. Over 2 billion people per day, use that's how many percent of the world's population. That means that meeting users right where they are would become more and more important. Seeing things like OTP being delivered right to users in those spaces. And I see that more products can get, more solutions can get inbuilt to the way people naturally do things. What I mean is now being fluid in every product that you have. So your customers come to your app, they can find your product. From where they are in their chat, they can interact with your product. So see things like banking coming into WhatsApp, where you can now, with a chat, you're able to prompt, make transfers, or do all of that. So I'm seeing how I can, today, if I were to build something, see I can help more businesses reach or build that WhatsApp strategy or social media strategy for meeting them in adding to the fluidity of their products. That's one. Another one is budgeting. I feel like we've done a good work on savings, like being able to automate savings, being able to save and all of that. But if we look at the whole budgeting on 360, I don't think that has fully been solved, especially from expense management to saving, like doing a full 360, being able to project your spending, being able to so most times what we do, or for a number of people, is we just spend and maybe we know where the money is going. We do it on impulse and all of that. But budgeting that with open banking now can really draw your transactions from different places, can make it easy to even impede offline transactions that you've done. Because our banking today don't do a good work when it comes to, let's say, narration. I mean, you look at something, you'll be thinking, who is Wazobia? Something that I sent some money to some days ago, So how to use AI in improving our budgeting, especially for younger ones. When I say AI, like being able to even based on your age, your demography, your situation, your family man, you have 2 kids, you're this, you're that, even being able to draft a budget for you if you don't have one. And if you already do, being able to put all those together and help you achieve your goals. These are two things that I would love to solve amongst other things.
I think all of we should look out for this product being launched very soon. I think budgeting is something really that most of us struggle with, and it's really important that we expect you to launch this app before we go, right? I'll say, what is that thing that you want people to know about you behind the scene? How you become who you are today, the effort, the hard work that you put. What was that behind the scenes story that you feel someone needs to know about you that will inspire an aspiring product manager, an aspiring or someone aspiring to be in tech or come into the fintech space?
Okay, so I'll say curiosity and Kaizen. So like being a lifelong learner and continue to be on the journey of learning. And yeah, so there's one book I recommend for everyone. Innovators DNA by Clayton. Yeah, I mean, and there are like three people who wrote that book. And it will tell you, like, ask a lot of questions. I ask a lot of questions. I'm the curious person. I ask a lot of questions. I read a lot as well. And I learn from others. So continue being curious, continue asking questions, and continue learning. It will keep you on the path. It will help you know more. It will help you to listen, and it will help you to reflect and help you get better at anything you're doing.
I will say one of my bosses there, Yemi Atanda, he said something one early morning. I just came into your office. We were talking. He said, Michael, if you want to be better than others, you have to know more than others. And that, and that stuck. I think that's where you hit the point. You need to be a continuous learner. You need to learn. Many people are quite lazy to learn. And I would say if you're trying to move into the fintech space, if you're trying to be a tech startup, if you're trying to be the best product manager, I think you need to learn. You need to be able to evolve. With And now you mentioned your final advice. What book or what podcast will you advise a new PM, someone starting or someone who wants to build? So or some book that you've read outside Innovators DNA that has impacted you so much in your journey?
For people who want to build, I like the book 0 to 1.
It's a tale. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very wonderful.
I love 0 to 1. For PMs inspired, oh my God, inspired by Matty Keegan. I recommend 101%. Inspired, like when I was reading the book Inspired, I was like, this is the book. Some of the experiences that I've gone through, the things that I know now, they were perfectly captured in the book. And I'm like, where has this book been on my life?
Yeah. I agree. Matt Kagan, Time to Write that book. Yeah, is a recommended. Is it something I also recommend?
Yeah.
On that note, I want to say very big thank you, Omojo, for honoring our invitation, and I want to say very big thank you for gracing our audience with these wonderful words of wisdom. And I know that once we call again, that you answer us because our audience are quite hungry to hear more. There are a lot of things we couldn't discuss today, but they are hungry to hear more. And thanks.
I look forward to next time, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.